My main man, Jesse Kelly, is in the house. He is the host of I'm Right with Jesse Kelly on the First TV. You can download the First TV app. It's all about free speech. Watch it anytime. And also the host of the Jesse Kelly Show in radio syndication. Mr. Kelly, good to have you.
It's good to be here, Buck. It's good to be in a V-neck once again. I just feel more alive.
So what do you see happening across the country right now with this focus, of course, on what's going on in D.C.? But what is this political moment we're in?
We're in one of the most out-of-touch political moments I've ever seen in my entire life. I don't understand it. I understand Washington, D.C. is a bubble. I lived there for a year. I know you've lived there. It is a bubble, and it really is. You exist in your own world, and you're unaware of how real people think. I don't think it's ever been as dangerous of a bubble as it is right now, and this is what I mean. There is such a hatred and anger building out there, especially on the right. Trump was a response of all that hatred and anger. And then they spent 4 years getting called Nazis. They spent 4 years getting murdered, assaulted, looted. And now we're moving that stuff into legislation. So the hatred on the right has never been higher. We saw it with that disaster in the Capitol last week. It's never been higher, this anger. And the people in D.C. are either unaware of that or don't care because they're taking each and every step they could possibly take to light a match and drop it in the powder keg. I've never seen it. And I've said this a million times, Buck. I don't want anybody to get hurt. Not on the left, not on the right, nobody. I don't like political violence is just awful. Somebody's going to die in this country if somebody doesn't turn down the temperature. We've already had people die. Someone's going to die if somebody doesn't step up and actually try to calm things down. And impeaching the president again is not calming things down.
What do you think the calculations are for those Republicans in the Congress who are going along with this? I see this and I think, is it that they believe that there's a political advantage for them down the line in this? Because I think that would that's a miscalculation on that front. And then beyond that, on the moral side of it, to me, they're going along with the notion that Trump called for an insurrection. I mean, there are prominent Democrats who are saying that Trump is effectively the leader of a terrorist organization now. And Republicans want to play along with that?
Well, look, I think, and again, goes back to my bubble miscalculation thing. Obviously, as you well know, you talk about this all the time on your great shows, that there's a certain segment of the Republican Party, probably a significant segment, that really hates Donald Trump. Many of them have been quiet about it for 4 years because you didn't want to go head to head and get blasted on Twitter, but they really hate Donald Trump. They've hated the whole thing. They've been dying for it to just go away so we can go back to how things were. And I think they are viewing that thing at the Capitol as an opportunity to finally be rid of him. They're worried even once he's not president anymore, he's going to carry a big stick, he's going to run things, and they want to stop that and cut it off. But they don't realize the Trumpism, if you want to call it that, or the Trump movement is about so much more than Donald Trump. It's about way more than that. You could get rid of the man tomorrow and send him to the moon. And the movement that brought him still remains. And these people are now madder than they were before. They're not less mad, they're madder.
Do you think that the election dispute, which, as we know, it's over now in the process sense, but there's still a lot of people who have their feelings, and they're being told by big tech and others, you're not allowed to disagree with the outcome publicly. You're not allowed to say that you think that this was illegitimate. You're not allowed to say that, which is, I think, a really interesting precedent considering Stacey Abrams in Georgia, the Democrats for the presidential election in 2016. All of a sudden, you have to bend the knee and say this or else. But putting that aside for a second, do you think that was the election the straw that broke the camel's back for a lot of people, or was it just an entry into a new level of disaffection and anger because of what the implications were?
Oh, I think it jumped everything up significantly. It jumped everything up significantly. I mean, these movements, this anger, it can go like this, but it has these moments where it goes vertical, and that is certainly a moment where it went vertical. But I should be clear, the anger out there is not, like I just said, it's not about Trump. It's not just about the election either. Yeah, that cranked it up a whole bunch more, but it's about more than that. People do feel, a large portion of this society does feel that this election was stolen, that there's a bunch of election fraud out there, and you can tell all those people they're right, You can tell all those people they're crazy, but whatever you can't do is change their minds at this point in time. But I promise you this, poking them all in the ribs and lecturing them all day long about how stupid they are, and then impeaching the man they think they just reelected is the worst thing you could possibly do if you're trying to unite the country.
Speaking to my friend Jesse Kelly, he's the host of I'm Right with Jesse Kelly on the First TV and also the Jesse Kelly radio show. Jesse, what do we do now? I keep asking people whose opinions I respect on this, and I think it's not an easy question, but I want to get as many perspectives on it as I can, because I think one of the issues we have right now is people are writing me and they're saying, we've lost the Senate, we don't have the House, we've lost the presidency, the media is all against us, big tech is all against us, corporate America is all against us. We talk about fighting back politically. How do we even do that right now? And it seems that I try to just counsel, right? The best I can come up with is patience. It will, this moment will pass. Do you have anything for the folks that feel that way? Well, what should they be thinking?
I do, actually. I do. I'm sure you probably are read up on it because you're one of these fancy CIA types, about how Mao actually managed to take over China. And I realize we're not Mao fans. I would certainly hope not. But he didn't start in the big, sexy cities. He started in the countryside. He started with the peasants. He started with the farmers. And that's where he started. Conquer this little area and that little area. I think we're looking right now. We don't have the presidency. We don't have the House. We don't have the Senate. And all is lost. But what's your city council look like? What does your school board look like? What's your mayor look like? What's your state house seat? What's your state senate seat look like? These races, there are so many easily winnable races out there. If we would identify them and go after them, and Democrats do that, great. Your local politics, we can start there. It doesn't have to be the sexy United States Senate. Start local anyway. Then you can still live your life and be on the school board and start affecting change. That's how they won the culture war. I mean, we lost this culture war in like 80 years because they got into school boards. They got in the city council offices. They're changing things locally. They took over the DAs. Why do you think none of the Black Lives Matter Antifa scumbags got charged, and every one of those guys in the Capitol building is going to have the book thrown at them? Because they identified DA races. That's where we can go. We're not powerless. The power has just shifted. We have to focus on easier things, softer targets.
We seem to, on our side, because our ideology, and I think it goes very deeply, it's almost a feature of the conservative mind, is that we don't want to bother other people and we don't want to be bothered. So I think conservatives have a natural inclination to say, look, if you're going to be the crazies who show up at the school board meetings and demand, all the social justice stuff, I can't handle this. Like, I just want to go back to my family and my job, leave me alone. And I understand and I sympathize with that. I mean, I don't like dealing with crazy either. But I think to your point about the way that we've ceded so much territory over time, what you find is that mentality, their innate desire to control institutions and to control others with those institutions has been remarkably successful. As we look at academia, big tech, the school systems, Hollywood. I mean, you go down the list. I mean, corporate America now, we always hear about Wall Street and big business as though they're all these fat cat Republicans smoking cigars who run these companies. If you see the public statements that are being put out all the time that are clearly political in nature from the biggest companies in America, 9 times out of 10, it's like a Nancy Pelosi press release.
They got the schools, Buck. They got the schools. Everybody knows in war, you control the supply lines, you win the war. They control the supply lines. 4 million college graduates a year. Think how many entire generations now have been educated in America sucks anti-education system. That's what we have. And yesterday's hippie college radical you laughed at on the corner, he's today's senator, he's today's CEO. These guys are so nuts at these big corporations. They'll have gigantic meetings about corporate social responsibility. And where you think they're all in there in fancy ties and going over pie graphs, and we spent this much on the overhead and we have to drop this, they're in there talking about, when's the last time we did a transgender campaign? We need to get kids involved this time too. They're having these meetings at the highest levels because we lost the schools, man. Once we lost the schools, we lost. We have to start taking those back, or all the rest of this is just rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic.
It's not easy to give this president advice. I've actually tried once or twice. What would you like to see, putting aside whether he would take it, what would you want to see the president do from here on out? What's the most helpful approach he could have for the country?
I think he should step away for a little while. And I don't say that because I want him gone. I say that for his own mental health. If I were Donald Trump, to try to let everyone miss me a little bit, you know what they say. I mean, always leave them wanting more. I would peace out of the White House in, 6 days when he's gone? And I'd be on a boat in the Mediterranean for about 4 or 5 months, eating grapes with my supermodel wife. And then I'd show back up with a big Trump rally about, 6 months to a year later. I would get away. You know what? Let everybody find out what these DC Republicans are like. Let everyone find out when I'm not there to take all the slings and arrows for you. You all go enjoy it, because then you can come back and you'll look like the return of Christ, with all due respect, Lord.
You think anyone is going to step up here from the GOP ranks in a way that's really meaningful? I'm looking around, and clearly the fact that the left hates Cruz and Hawley so much is an indicator, is a check mark in the plus column for me, for those guys. And the fact they want to put them on the no-fly list as if they're, Bin Laden's agents. But what do you see as the future of the party? I don't mean 5 years from now. I mean for the next 6 to 12 months.
Oh, I think Ron DeSantis is about to become the next nominee for the Republican presidency. I think he's about to lock it down. When you saw immediately the response to, the big tech censorship of Trump, was every Republican whimpering and let's impeach him and all these other things. What does Ron DeSantis do? He comes out and starts divesting state funds from Apple and Google and all these places. He comes out and fires back. And you can hate Ron DeSantis. You can disagree with that. But that is a man very much in touch with how the Republican base feels. Ron DeSantis at this point in time is the leader by a mile in the clubhouse to be the Republican nominee for 2024. I think you're going to hear him be really loud over the next 4 years, because if he's got any political instincts at all, he knows it's his to lose right now.
I'm speaking to Jesse Kelly, host of I'm Right with Jesse Kelly on the First TV. Jesse, yeah, you're a Texan, and your governor has been, I would say, mediocre at best during the lockdowns. I mean, maybe a little bit better than like Newsom and Cuomo. DeSantis in Florida has shown, I think, the best results for his state under the circumstances. I believe, and you and I have been discussing this both together and on our respective shows from the very beginning, that we have a major battle ahead, because there's going to be this lingering lockdown effect. That even as the vaccines are out there, and even as the numbers, the numbers would come down even if we did nothing, right? They would come down because of just all the people that would have already been infected by probably April or May, which is what we saw last year. The seasonality of this virus is quite clear. But as the numbers go down, and as we have more and more vaccine, we're going to have to battle against efforts, and with the federal government now fully on board, to just sort of continue this hyper-controlled state that we're in. And I think we're going to have to mount a really serious pushback against this.
Oh, it's not going away, because this is what's going to happen, Buck. There are too many people highly invested in coronavirus being real, because coronavirus, well, I'm not saying it's false, but in coronavirus being, the worst thing in the world, we have to lock everything down, because coronavirus has allowed them to crush traditionally Republican things like small businesses, churches, and things like that. And B, who wants to give up the TV time? But the big thing now, Buck, is it's going to allow them to pass bills they'd never be able to get through before. People are mad about that last coronavirus jerk bill they passed through, where we all got $600 and they sent a bunch of money to Pakistan. You people better buckle up. That's as good as those bills get. The coronavirus relief bill, they're going to be able to throw anything they want in the next bill. and call it coronavirus relief, and everybody's going to pass it because nobody wants to be the guy who's against coronavirus relief. They're going to pass 5 more of those bills. You watch.
It's funny you say this because I've been telling everybody if Republicans try anything to stop what will be the most, I mean, it's going to be like the drunken sailor, no offense, Navy, the drunken sailor, with the checkbook out, just whatever the Democrats want. And if Republicans, let's say, try to stop it in the Senate, then you know what happens. They're going to say, guys, we got to get rid of the filibuster because this coronavirus relief package depends on it. We got to get you the money, so we're going to have to get rid of the filibuster, and then it's game on even more.
Oh, yeah. It was the ultimate Trojan horse. And Republicans, look, they didn't realize it early enough. You did, I did, but they did not realize it early enough. They got all on board with the panic, and it took them a month or two before they finally woke up and looked around and realized, oh, wow, the left is going to use this to utterly destroy us. And they are. I don't have something bright and sunny to tell anybody about what the federal government is going to do for the next 2 years. I just don't. There isn't good news I can bring you. But I will tell you this, focus on your local politics, and every once in a while, take this and set it down. Once you're done watching the first, and you're done watching Buck for the day, set the phone down, go play with your kids. You're going to have to learn how to compartmentalize.
I completely agree. I've mentioned this on the show earlier in the week that everyone just needs to take a deep breath, focus on what actually matters in your day-to-day life. That doesn't mean to give up on these political fights, but there's only so much any one of us can do individually. You got to become comfortable with that, because it's going to be a tough ride for the country, certainly for the next 2 years. Jesse Kelly, everybody. Jesse, great to have you, my friend. Thank you.
Appreciate you, boss.
Right now, the Trump Organization profits about $17 million a year from these contracts. They cover 4 different sites, 3 in Manhattan, 1 in the Bronx, different entertainment sites. And look, it's quite clear. The President of the United States directed a mob to attack the U.S. Congress during the Electoral College vote. That's. I mean, even saying the words, Mika, it's almost impossible to believe. But it's criminal activity, and so it's very clear. I mean, the lawyers looked at it; it was just as clear as a bell. That's grounds for severing these contracts, and we're moving to do that right away.
Economic sanctions against Trump post-presidency. You're going to see a lot more of this. They're going to try to take down the entire Trump organization piece by piece, all of it. They're going to try to remove his name from all the buildings that it's on. They are going after not only the man, Donald Trump, and his family and his supporters, but remember, they want to destroy the brand as well. They really want to annihilate his name and all of the implications that it had carried of success, of luxury, of all these different things that have been built up. They want to destroy the Trump brand. You're going to see a widespread campaign to do this in every place where Democrats have control. And I don't know how effective the Trump organization is going to be at fighting back. There's a lot of money involved in these deals. Maybe people will forget about this, but you think about the luxury real estate market, for example, and the relationships with banks and the institutional heft that you need to be able to do the things in private life as a businessman that Trump needs to do. They're going to go after it. And I don't know how many places, once Trump is out of power, are going to be willing to withstand that pressure campaign. And understand this. If they are able to destroy the Trump brand, it also serves as a warning to everyone else. You're a billionaire who wants to buy a channel and flip it and make it free speech or even conservative in nature. Better think twice about that one. You're a wealthy donor who wants to support, outreach efforts for the GOP to the minority communities for 2022 turnout. Might want to think that one through again. They're coming after everybody of value. That's their plan. Our man in D.C. joins us now, Harlan Hill. He is a political consultant and strategist, actually works on campaigns and knows the inner workings of the Beltway. He's going to tell us what he's seeing and hearing. Harlan, great to have you.
It's great to be with you as always, Buck.
What do you make of this stuff that's going on with the Impeachment 2.0 fiasco on Capitol Hill? What's D.C. feeling like right now?
Well, first I'll address what the actual vibe in the city's like. Obviously, everything's been shut down because of COVID. But in addition to that, we've been living through riots all through the summer. Now, during all the BLM riots, I had never seen the response that we are currently seeing based on the events of last Wednesday. There is military on every corner. You have to show your ID or some proof as to why you are traveling to different parts of downtown Washington, D.C., the nation's capital. You need to show your papers. You need to show your ID. I had to demonstrate that I was heading home and what my reasons for traveling were last night. They're not because of any curfew, just in the middle of the afternoon. It is unprecedented, the response to last week's events that we're seeing play out in the streets. It's almost hysterical. I'm sure you've seen the images of the thousands of National Guard troops quartered in the United States Capitol. We've seen these images play out over the second impeachment, which is absolutely absurd. I mean, the president will be out in a matter of days. So it's clear that there's a political calculation here to ruin the president's reputation and to preclude him from running for office at some point in the future. But worse than all of that have been the efforts by the Democrats to execute what I think is basically a coup. They've attempted to remove the president, directing the vice president to exercise the 25th Amendment. Nancy Pelosi communicated last Friday with the Joint Chiefs of Staff. This has been reported by all the mainstream media outlets, suggesting that the nuclear codes should be stripped from the president of the United States. This is unprecedented. And
what constitutional authority? I mean, first off, I mean, you mentioned this, and I don't want to interrupt you, Harlan, but I want to get some specifics here from you. I mean, we know that the 25th Amendment is not there. It's very clear that it's meant for incapacitation. It's not, I don't like the president. Let's just use this as a tool to undo an election. So that's one part. But Pelosi trying to strip the nuclear codes from the president, on what basis could she possibly legally be doing that?
There is none. There is none. I mean, addressing the point of the 25th Amendment, Nancy Pelosi actually has spoken a lot on this. In the months leading up to the election, she had wanted to assemble this panel to sort of explore what the requirements would be for exercising the 25th Amendment. And her own panel and Nancy Pelosi's office communicated that it would have to be based on science and medicine, that the president was incapacitated. And there's zero science, zero medical analysis from any of the president's physicians or anyone close to the president that would require his removal, let alone his removal mere days before he's supposed to peacefully transfer power. I mean, if Democrats really want this nation to start healing, Buck, and they want a peaceful transfer of power, they should be glad that the president has come to the table in a conciliatory fashion, as he has over the last week, released multiple videos guaranteeing that there will be no issue handing off power to the Biden administration. It is important that President Trump communicate to his supporters that this has happened. We don't like it. We have questions about what happened. That's behind us now at this point. The president has said that. And so for the good of the nation, Democrats should stop playing games now. If they truly want to de-escalate this. But Buck, I actually don't think they want to de-escalate. If they wanted to de-escalate, they would stop this impeachment shenanigans. They would stop pulling Nancy Pelosi, who is third in line. She's right behind Mike Pence in the line of secession, wouldn't be floating these conspiracy theories about the president's incapacitation and suggesting that the Department of Defense should strip him of his ability to defend the nation in a nuclear attack. I mean, this is sedition, textbook. What they are doing is so dangerous. It's an escalation at a time when this country needs to start coming together and start figuring out, both parties, how we save the country.
And Harlan, you're a political consultant. You work on campaigns in D.C., and you've also you're close to and know many people at the top levels of this White House, including the president. How much of a concern do you have that the witch hunt effect, if you will, for President Trump is going to continue even after Biden's inauguration to go after people that are essentially called Trump enablers, right? You see that language used sometimes. And given the hysteria the Democrats are affording right now, they're calling the president a terrorist leader. They're calling the president an insurrectionist. I feel like we have to take seriously that they are going to come after people legally, professionally, and seek to destroy them.
I mean, I speak privately with a lot of pretty powerful people in our movement, very powerful conservatives, people that were in the Trump administration or the campaign, and various influencers on television and social media. And there's this universal fear that what the Democrats are going to do here, and what they're already doing, is punishment. They are punishing us for the Trump movement in a way that we've never seen in this country since McCarthyism, first of all. And we certainly never saw when President Trump won in 2016. They're going to go after us personally, financially, and the repercussions are going to be long lasting. And Democrats should question the wisdom of this, because they're setting a precedent that's not going to be a pretty one. Which is that in this country, when we lose elections, or when we win elections, rather, we silence the party in opposition. We can have the leader of the opposition party, who will be President Trump when he transfers power, silenced and banned from social media, banned from communicating with his followers. We'll have them debanked so they can't even go out and get loans and mortgages. There are a lot of people that think this is not just going to impact the president of the United States. It's going to impact all of the conservative leadership. And I'm talking about mainstream establishment conservatives. I'm talking about people that were pro-Trump the whole way, in order to teach them to listen. And listen, and I think that there are various people in the establishment of the Republican Party that will applaud that. There are a lot of people that through President Trump's rise to power, they looked at this as a challenge of waiting out the clock for the end of the president's administration, and that they would come back and return to the old flavor of the Republican Party.
Who do you think, Harlan, is in that? Are you seeing movement from within the GOP for not someone to fill in the vacuum that will leave after Trump goes, but that wants to revert to the party of, let's say, Romney and McCain pre-Trump 2016 election win?
Sorry, Buck, I lost you there.
I just said, who do you see trying to revert or try to take the Republican Party back to what it was before Trump was the de facto leader of it? I mean, are you seeing any politicians right now that you think, oh, I see they want to go back to the Bush, Romney, McCain era?
Well, just last night we saw Liz Cheney, right? I mean, she is supporting impeachment, and now she's engaged in an all-out war between the Republican caucus and the House, and because there are still many America First Republicans in positions of power and throughout the caucus over in the House. Jim Jordan's one of them. Matt Gaetz. The list is long. But Liz Cheney is I think she's surprised that there haven't been more people that have risen to her defense. But Mitt Romney has never stopped carrying the mantle for the establishment Republican Party that couldn't manage to win an election. that, Mitt himself led us to defeat in an election that I think was quite winnable against Barack Obama, despite all of Barack Obama's charisma and everything. The economy was in dire straits. Obamacare was a disaster. He didn't get us out of any of the foreign wars that he promised to. I mean, I really, really think Mitt Romney missed an opportunity in 2012, and he never came to terms with it. And he resented the fact that President Trump tapped into something that he didn't realize. And so, so Mitt Romney will be one of those people, no question. There are more of them, I think, of profile in the Senate than there are in the House.
Speaking of Harlan Hill, political consultant, strategist, and a man who knows the inner workings of D.C. well, Harlan, the social media crackdown, which affects you and me because we both have had active social media presence. Are you seeing the beginnings, you think, of an effective resistance or answer to this? Or is your expectation that the Google, Facebook, Amazon move here is the beginning of much more of this? Have they given us their best shot by locking down Parler, and now they're concerned about the backlash? Or do you think they realize, oh, we got away with that one, we got more targets we can go after now, all of them being conservative?
Well, I think that the social media companies are in a tough spot because they're primarily made up of far left employees. Their boards are comprised of far left activists. And they're kowtowing to an incoming Democratic administration that they fear, they're looking at like the Elizabeth Warren wing of the Democratic Party, that they fear will seek to break up these big tech monopolies for antitrust concerns. And so the reason that they're doing all of this is to keep the boards happy, keep their employees happy, and to placate Democrats so that they won't be broken up over the next 4 years. So they're like a loyal little puppy that is willing to do whatever the Democrats will. So my concern is that there's going to be a lot more of this coming. To your point, they've gotten away with a lot. They got away with banning the leader of the free world from communicating to his constituents. You may not like Trump, but I think one of the innovations of his administration is that you always knew what he was thinking. You had basically a direct line to the man through Twitter. Now I don't know what's going on with the president anymore. It is such it has done such a disservice to the public. And I don't see any reason why this won't stop. It won't stop with social media. It will impact Republicans' ability to fundraise. I wouldn't be surprised if there are movements to encumber the way in which we accept donations online. There'll be calls for Visa and MasterCard and American Express and Discover to not process credit card transactions for political contributions to Republicans. That's on the horizon. That's coming. There's already been efforts to disrupt our ability to use email services like MailChimp Constant Contact to send SMS messages to supporters. These are critical, especially in the time of coronavirus, where we can't go out and do traditional campaigning. These are essential tools for being able to conduct a campaign online. And they've gotten rid of social media. They're going after all these other aspects of running a campaign. I don't know what happens. Anything short of legislation isn't going to fix this. And because we won't have the House, the Senate, and the White House, I don't know what we do about it in the next 2 years. And
a very important point, Harlan. I see this as the beginning. I don't see this as I think it's the beginning of a lot more, and the fight is very steeply uphill for us to try to take back some autonomy and some freedom on the internet. But Harlan Hill, everybody, political consultant. You'll see him on shows, including this one, going forward. And Harlan, thank you so much.
Thanks, Bob.
Number one, there are just 7 days left. What's the point?
Well, every day that Donald Trump's in office, every hour that Donald Trump's in office, the American people are at risk and our national security is at risk. I think he's proven time and time again that he's capable of doing very dangerous things. As we sit here right now, he is the commander in chief, and the American people are less safe because of it.
Number two, It's divisive. Impeachment is divisive.
Well, there needs to be unity and healing in our country. There's no doubt about that. But in every case, unity and healing requires truth and accountability. People around the world, dictators and despots and would-be autocrats, as well as the American people, need to see that our democracy will not be intimidated, it will not be browbeaten, that actions have consequences, and that's important for the rule of law, and that's important for our healing as a nation.
Oh, yeah, healing as a nation. That's what they're going to tell you. This is going to help the nation heal. Impeaching and removing the duly elected president of the United States when you can count the hours pretty easily that he has left in office. That's what the new plan is going to be. Look, they'll say anything at this point, and they want to go after, they want to humiliate and destroy Trump, as you know. And then there's the people around him, too. I mean, you have Senator Sherrod Brown, or Sherrod Brown, whatever. I think it's Sherrod, actually, on Josh Hawley. They want to expel him from the Senate. So it's not just Trump that they want to undo election results. They want to do this to anybody who has been supporting Trump, who is duly elected as well. Play 16.
The public humiliation doesn't seem to matter much. Even some of their allies, Senator Hawley's his sort of mentor, former Senator Danforth, has said that he was speaking, well, I don't remember exact words, but that he wished he hadn't encouraged him to run for the Senate. They're hearing that, but the Senate as a body needs to take action. And I know Senator McConnell won't, but we should, if he's not going to resign, which of course they won't, they continue to be like Trump and take no responsibility for anything, even though we saw their words. We saw the picture of Hawley, who George Will said there's a huge chasm between his ambition and his achievement. Then we should take action on expulsion.
Expulsion from the Senate. They want to do it to Hawley. They want to do it to Cruz. This is showing you they want to expel all the Republicans. You get that, right? They're limiting it right now because they're trying to go after their most important and most vulnerable targets. But if they could, they would ban the Republican Party right now if they could get away with it. They have one-party control of this country in their sights. That's why Biden talking about what he's going to do on immigration and the legislative moves that you can expect in the first 100 days. They have one. That is the goal. One-party control. It's not about unity or healing or anything else. It's about being in charge without any opposition, and they think they can achieve it.